What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Film Room here on Two Guys Watching Football, where we're going to be getting into some George Karlaftis, the Greek demigod. Very exciting guy, edge rusher out of Purdue. I already see my guy Tony Sales in here. I know when I'm doing edge rushers, he's going to show up. So nice to see you, Tony. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. If you guys are enjoying this series, and I know you have, there's been a bit of a break in episodes with some other content, but do me a favor, hit the like button. It's a great way to show me that you guys are into these things. I'll keep doing more of them, and of course, hit subscribe so you can find your way back for more. But hit the like button; it does me a big favor, and also a big thank you to everyone. I mean, it's been last week was pretty crazy. I did quite a few appearances, including obviously on the lounge, which I know a lot of you heard, and I really appreciate all the feedback you guys sent. It's been an exciting opportunity for me, and to get the positive feedback and hear those kind words, it means a lot to me. And I see Nick's in there too. What's up, brother? So we're going to have some fun with this one. So we're talking George Karlaftis, and Spencer Schultz might be joining me. I sent him the link. I don't know if he's coming. Might have gotten consumed with something. So if he joins us, the more the merrier. But right now it's one guy watching football. So George Karlaftis Jr. from the Purdue Boilermakers by way of West Lafayette, Indiana, via Athens, Greece. That's right, in 8th grade, where he began playing football. He moved to the U.S. from Greece, so he's got those Greek roots, and I have heard him referred to a few times as the Greek demigod, and he definitely has the physique of it. He's a little bit shorter, a little stouter, but a ton of functional strength in his game, as we're going to see tonight. Interesting point about him: he's a 2001 birthday. So he's one of the younger cats in this draft class. He'll turn just 21 years old, I think April 9th, so just a few weeks before the draft. So always intriguing when you're getting some of these guys that are on the younger side. More room for physical development. So something you always want to consider. And he had quite a decorated high school career at West Lafayette High. So he stayed local where he grew up from 8th grade in Indiana. His team went 15-0 in 2018, winning Indiana's class. There's Spenny. What's up, brother? I was just saying I might be doing this one solo, but good to see you, buddy. How's it going?
Had a little technical difficulties. Doing well.
All good. No, thanks for joining, man. I was just starting to do the intro, but I'll just rip through this quick, and then so team went 15-0 in 2018, winning Indiana Class 3A state championship. He became a 4-star recruit and was selected to play in the 2019 U.S. Army All-American Bowl, where he received National Defensive Player of the Year honor. True freshman in 2019. He was first-team Associated Press freshman All-American, started 12 games for the Boilermakers. Obviously, big accomplishment anytime you're a true freshman starting in a major conference. Finished third on his team with 54 total tackles, 30 solos, led the team with 17 tackles for a loss, and tied for the team lead with 7.5 sacks. Played in only 3 games as a sophomore in 2020 due to injury and COVID, but in those 3 games, he had 2 sacks and 10 tackles, and he barely played the 3rd game against Minnesota. Pretty productive. And in 2021, he was a 3rd-team All-American, 25 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. As a pass rusher, he also had 15 QB hits and 39 hurries, which ranked 7th and 12th in the NCAA. And I think we start our 2021 game. We're going to be looking at the Notre Dame game. You guys will notice that dip in production, right? So, why do you have a dip in production? Is that what we want to see when he's coming out? He saw, and I'm assuming it's because of how much success he had as a true freshman in 2019, so many. Like, it was ridiculous how many times he was getting chipped, how many times he was getting doubled, how many times he was getting all of this attention from the offensive game plan. I've talked about it with Miaje Sanders. I talked about it with Karlaftis. Anytime the offense is keying in on you, it's going to hit that split second between, it's a split second between a QB hit and a sack. It's a split second between a hurry and a QB hit, et cetera, et cetera. And as you know, Spencer, I always kind of start these things with a quick little discussion question I want to pick your brain on. So question for you: production's obviously important. It's something that we have to look at, especially in the context of first rounders, which I think George Karlaftis is definitely referred to as. So how do you weigh in production in your evaluation process, especially in this context where you see that kind of dip?
Yeah, it's always difficult. I like to see, pertaining to an edge rusher, you like to see pressure. You like to see just disruption. You can measure disruption many ways. Quarterback hits are disruption. Tackle for losses are disruption. It means you're winning. It means you're in the backfield. You want to try and take all that and contextualize it, of course. And it's not the end all be all, but injuries can play a part in dips in production and getting healthy or anything of the sort. Level of competition, like you said, double team rate, things of that nature when pertaining to the edge. Do teams just avoid this guy? Do teams just run away from him? Do teams put a tight end over there, have the running back chip? What is the deal ultimately? So production's important. You want to see guys ultimately get pressure one way or the other. You want to see quarterback hits. You want to see sacks. You want to see forced fumbles, of course. But at the same time, Jalen Ferguson, outrageous production. Why was it coming? Why was it happening? Is it transferable to the NFL? So, the measurables, the testing, the tape, the stats are all, cooking in the pot, cooking that big old stew to try and figure it out. So it's just I'd say it's a 4-slice pizza, and that's a major slice of it.
Yeah, that's for those that kind of tuned in for our pre-combine episode that we did with Michael Crawford, Chris Aguilera, and James Ogden. We talked about that in the scouting combine. It's all pieces of the puzzle that make up the mosaic that is these prospects. So the production's a key piece, but kind of what I look for is, all right, his production dipped. Is it, you look at a guy like, this might be a bad example because of the injuries as well, but like Justin Ross, just lesser QB play, you'll see less production. You go from having a Trevor Lawrence to can't think of his name off the top of my head, but that's it. So just any difference like that, I need to see the context. And so I didn't clip a bunch of them because I don't think you guys want to watch him get chipped all night. But I will say it was consistent, very consistent. And we're actually going to start with 2019 Minnesota. And the reason I want to do that is because, one, he sees a lot of reps against Falele, and I love Falele. But also, I've seen a lot of the comments out there that, he may struggle, quote unquote, at developing a pass rush plan. And the sequence of rushes that he has, I picked five clips from this game just to go through. And the way he kind of switched his approach throughout the game really intrigued me, especially again, this is coming in the context of a true freshman year. So that's where we're actually going to start. We're going to start with the very first play of the game. Hold on, let me go back here. It's all buffering. So there he is, top of the D line here against Falele. And that's such a classic Falele rep. He's just going to lean on you and basically wash you. But let's run it through here and then we'll go back. I picked this one because, this is your typical, and Spencer, you kind of give me your thoughts on this as well. Because when we talk about power rushers and power rushers making that transition to the next level, I think this is the types of reps that you fear. So what happens here? He sets up, tries to get inside. He tries to use that outside hand, the little hezzy, to try and push in, gain leverage on the outside shoulder. And then it's right here. You see the right hand come under with the rip. And it's that lack of bend, right? That lack of explosiveness, that extra gear.
A little high, too.
Yeah. And so we'll get into this quite a bit, but this man's flexibility pieces are so intriguing to me. You and I talked about it on the timeline. Very fluid ankles, not very fluid hips. And it's always so intriguing to see different types of flexibility. But, this is kind of what you fear. So the tackles, you're going to hit them with that initial run, and then they're just going to lean on you. And you could probably call this a hurry. Quarterback's affected. Quarterback sees some pressure, but it's not enough to be detrimental. At the end of the day, the whole marriage between an edge and an inside rush is, sometimes the edge rusher is doing his job just by making the QB step up in the pocket. So not necessarily a bad rep, but this is kind of what you fear at the next level. You're not going to get that inside hand to rip under, and the tackles are just going to constantly lean on you and wash you out of the pocket.
For sure. Ultimately, you want to see him be able to stack as well. That's going to be a major factor, is winning, and it's something you can like to receivers. It's stacking once you win that corner, stacking once you win that little edge. seal him. It's like in basketball when you're driving to the lane, you want to seal that foot around the hip so that you're able to win. And that's how you can really generate a sack. That's how you can generate a real clean, high quality win instead of, being engaged still, trying to use a free hand or a free arm to ultimately, get lucky a little bit, so to speak. Right. So you want to see that little extra sauce at the top of it. You want to see him try to work that inside leg around Falele and seal it back in with the rip. And that's why a guy like a Jabo, who uses his elbows and his knees as pistons that work together in rhythm, are able to, seal really wide. So, a little high, a little slow, comes off the ball just a little slow, and works the hands. That's what you're going to see with him consistently. He's just going to keep working those hands all the time.
And that's something, what you just said there is really kind of what bugged me around some of the commentary. It's like, I guess I saw some people kind of leaving the impression I felt that didn't use his hands well. And then I kind of watch him play and I'm like, well, he's kind of, he likes the club rep, seems to be a go-to, makes a ton of sense. But a lot of good mix-ups where he'll use his outside hand on an inside shoulder and kind of cut that lane inside. I think we see that. I think we see that here. Is this the one? He's against the left tackle here.
Yep.
Yeah. So, again, nice little bit of a variance here. So let's walk through here. So he's going to come up and he's going to use that inside hand on the inside shoulder to basically just knock him back and create that lane. And then he didn't shoot up with his arm, but he could have, and there's a QB hit right like that. So, again, we just saw him go for the edge there, comes over to this side, uses a bit of a dip. But he's, what intrigued me is he looks like he's not a very long player. But, he's very good at getting his hands inside. I think his hands could be a little quicker. You alluded to that in the last point. I think there's still a little bit of room, but again, this is 2019, so it'll be interesting to look at that specifically when we go up to the Notre Dame game.
Considering how young he is, he might be 17 years old here, depending on when this game was played. I think he's 20 right now.
Yeah, his birthday is in April, so I think he would have been 18, but he would have turned 18 in that April. So, right. I mean, that's a young kid playing against, some of these monsters out here, right? So
certainly. So that shows really advanced hands to me. And it's kind of another rep where he's not firing off the ball. He's got that little hezzy, he's rising up a little bit. It seems like he's trying not to find himself off balance. I'd guess maybe at certain times, balance is kind of an issue with him when he does really try to shoot because of some of his hip limitations. So you see him come off, but such precise hands. His hands are in the right spot. The quickness isn't quite there, but that long arm's going right into the chest plate, right into a leverage point, and he's able to create force that way right there. And able to continue and work that arm over with it as well. Takes a path, and you don't see elite, closing speed or anything, but he's going to go hit the quarterback and he's going to go hurt the quarterback. He throws his weight into quarterbacks very well. So
we see a sack at the end of this. It's clip 5, and he absolutely smashes the quarterback. But one thing that you just said, I didn't pull these clips because it was a wide receiver screen. So, I mean, it was kind of the tackle doing it, but I think he does a really good job of identifying the tackle set point and working off of it. So Minnesota runs this wide receiver screen where their tackle will basically overset outside, trying to get that play side edge defender to come inside. And then the guard pulls out as a lead blocker. And so what I noticed from Karlaftis, and I clipped it a few times because I thought, but then I was like, well, the tackle's trying to get him to do it. But this is a similar point where, he's kind of reading that set point and adjusting to it. But right here, he sets outside and he kind of acknowledges that, right? Like he's got this
lift.
gap.
He's got the lift with the outside hand too, right? Or no?
Exactly. His inside hand. Yeah. And then he swims in. But, I thought he did a really good job of navigating the set point, and those screens were a really concrete example of showing exactly how he did that. Let's skip ahead here to our next one.
I think it's good from those first two. Control. He was in control off the line. He wasn't ahead of himself, but he also wasn't showing real get off to threaten with.
Why did I clip this one? Okay, yeah. So this kind of goes back to what I was getting at with the first point too. When I found he wasn't a very bendy player. So when he tries to make these, because he tries to stack them there, tries to use the hand swipe.
Wants to rip under.
And that's something that Falale does really well is he just leans on guys, right? Like he'll let them kind of come into his chest, and he doesn't really use his length really well right now. But he's so goddamn big and wide that he'll just kind of lean on you and then wash you out of the back of the pocket. That's what he did. But again, when people talk about the concerns, that's really what I wanted to show with these is I don't want to drone on and on because I don't think it represents him as a player. But when people talk about the concerns and the power rusher concerns, and this is kind of what they're referring to, where if he doesn't get his, because he doesn't get the leverage there like he did in the previous 2 reps we just saw, he doesn't kind of have that burst around the corner and he just kind of gets washed around the pocket. So I think that's where most of the concerns are coming out. Again, not necessarily saying that this is a consistent negative, but if he doesn't kind of win that initial pass rush move, this will happen where he just kind of gets washed. And I mean, he's not going to win every rep. So that's also not the expectation.
I don't know. I kind of find him to work his way to the quarterback eventually a lot more than he can't threaten with speed. So if he tries to, win with one of those, that's where he doesn't. But if he kind of has a more neutral, strength-based approach or hands-based approach, he can counter through and work through really well. I would say, and he's really young here, and we'll get to another game, but I consider him black belt certified. I know he actually does MMA, but I always like to, my top guys, I always like to give them, black belt certified pass rushers, guys that can win with their hands, they can wipe on, they can wipe off, they're ready to go Danielson style. And I think we can see that with Karlaftis. But to your point, if he's not, winning that way through or inside, then or
margin of error, right? It's like everything we talk about at pretty much every position.
Exactly.
So it was more just I want to hit on, and actually I didn't mention that up front, and I always do. When I dug into his backstory, he actually won back-to-back state championships in the shot put. He was a member of the Greek national water polo team. His dad was a track and field guy and a football player for the University of Miami, and his brother Yanni won a judo world championship while in Greece. And he's actually with the Boilermakers as of last year. So a couple fun facts, but when you mentioned that, it was when you just said black belt. I was like, oh yeah, wasn't there something to do with judo? I know that's not what you were saying, but I had to get that in there. I always love seeing the multi-sport ability in some of these guys.
Of course, I think that's why he can win very much so. So we've seen him primarily work in 5 tech through these reps here. Primarily just that outside shade, 4-point stance. I like the flat back there.
Love this one.
And
wait, can we pause for a sec? Look who catches this 6.
Yep.
Who's number 13 on Minnesota?
It's that's a fun rep to watch, but I like the flat back, but again, just not really seeing the get off, but you see him kind of stay neutral, figure out the smartest path. And again, you're talking about that set point. He recognizes the set point and works through it as a young player, as a very, very young player. Ultimately here as a true freshman, but you do see a little bit of kind of some false steps here and just right through that transition there. Not really false steps, but just that transition there, feels like Falele wasn't very reactive, which can be a problem for him once the pass rush showed itself. But just, I don't know. It's still a little plodding to me. I don't know how to put the word on it.
I think that's really why I really wanted to dig into this, because I think that this is what we want to see in the transition from 2019 to 2021. How much better did that get? But to your point, look at the finish on this too. He absolutely lays wood on this one too.
He locates those ribs and hits right through them, turns his head to the side, sticks his shoulder into the ribs every time. He is a quarterback herder.
Not the kind of guy you want to piss off.
He's a bad man.
And this is the kind of rep is why you don't block him with a tight end. He's going to hit the double hand swipe. It's on play action too. But
clean. He recognized where was the tight end. The tight end was too far inside. The tight end was moving. I have that outside lane, and he can match his hands with it as well.
Yeah.
So the IQ is there, very much so for such a young player, 2019 freshman, able to recognize tight ends selling himself inside too much. I got to get off, and I can peel back and redirect that way.
And the double hand swipe, something we didn't see in the previous one. So again, showing that repertoire. How can I use different pass rush moves? Specifically a good one to use against tight ends that can't really block you. In this game, they used on quite a few of these play action plays where they actually doubled them with the 2 different tight ends at the same time. So trying to check the.
He reminds me of like discount double check Fred's bargain bin Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
The swipes,
Yep.
kind of the IQ. I just don't think he has anywhere as much of the fluid athleticism or any of the bend at all. And not that Bosa is really the super bendy player, but he's able to stay lower, dip his shoulders a little bit more. He kind of has full flexibility from his upper and lower limbs, whereas Karlaftis has like bits and pieces of it, but that trunk there is kind of stiff. So I see some shades of, Fred's bargain bin Joey Bosa.
And yes, we do love talking arm length on this one. But this is one that's valid. If his arms come in short, I don't think he's running, but I'm assuming he'll measure. If his arms come in short and people complain, I'll get it because I do see it on his tape. I can see, and that's always kind of been my arm length thing. If guys play with bad length, you see it in their skill set.
And it's all margin for error, like
exactly.
You said. He's got to his hand placement has to be better. He has to protect himself, to protect his chest plate more consistently, because he doesn't win that length battle if that's the case. And his tackle radius, I will say, I was a little bit taken aback. I don't think he's as much of an impact run defender as he was made out to be. And I don't see very much of a tackle radius in terms of him kind of being able to lunge and wrap a guy up with some range.
In that Minnesota game, didn't clip him again, should have. The amount of times they ran reverses, because Minnesota's offense was basically, let's do some funky shit up at the
high school offense.
Yeah, and then let's get Bateman going deep. Every game I've watched now that Bateman is on the offense, he's scored in. I don't know how many touchdowns he had in 2019, but it's getting a little silly at this point. But yeah, that and there was a play on an end around that went to number 6, not sure who it is, and you could see it. Like it was right to him on the strong side, and he just can't get his arm on him. So I mean, again, tackle radius, extremely relevant. Completely understand the length concerns. This play isn't a whole lot of anything, but it does show. It was the first play of the game, so I was like, I'll just show you guys right out the gate the type of attention he gets as a pass rusher. Watch 23, goes right up, and this isn't just a chip. I mean, he gets right into him, right?
That's a double team, yeah.
So, I mean, he's getting doubled. And so, again, I'm not going to waste your guys' time showing trust me, this is consistent throughout his tape in 2021. He just sees all this type of attention. So, regardless of what he did on this rep, just want to show.
I mean, Purdue knew it was coming and played off that well there. They recognized that delay.
We should show that rep, actually, because the inside linebacker cross blitz was actually beautiful. They end up with a sack on this. And I think
they were willing to sacrifice taking out Karlaftis for that back being able to pick up that blitz right there.
Because what do running backs read in pass pro? They read inside out, so that's probably where his help's going to be. So again, it may not have been a play that he directly made, but taking that attention, opening up for your teammates, all important stuff. I pulled a lot of these clips from End Zone Angle just as a heads up.
And quick comments: he's stand up now. You see him, and his body composition looks so much different from that 2019 tape. You can see it very quickly. The white maybe is a little slimming or something, but to me, I see a much more lean athlete than we saw in 2019 already. And he's
still calling him medium husky. I'm calling him medium husky. He looks like me trying to fit into my high school t-shirt sometimes in these jerseys.
He also doesn't have really long arms, but he doesn't have really like jacked arms, considering how like Saquon Barkley his legs are.
He's got a bigger upper body. Like if I don't, is he lifting? Like, is he gonna do the bench press?
I have no idea. It's just really surprising because Bruce Feldman's freak list, which I don't know if you talked about or not, but supposed to run 4.7, jump really well, and all these things, and then he's contemplating. Last I saw, he was contemplating not doing anything. We'll see. Well, I guess we'll see. So.
Yeah, no, interesting point though, because I mean the arm length does matter in that bench press, because if he's truly that kind of farm boy strong, West Lafayette, Indiana, and he has those short arms, huge advantage in the bench press. Could really push. So he moves into 4-eye here, kind of a 4-up.
A lot of weight on that hand. He's going to explode.
And
really,
so this
really
is
lean in that stance.
This is something I really wanted to show because as a run defender, I always call this peekabooing. And I think it can be a little bit of a length issue as well. When you want to read a gap and you're reacting to zone, so that's what this is, inside zone. So you can see him peekabooing on his gap, but he doesn't have any sort of, like, the 75 has his right outside hand just right under his armpit right now. That's where it is. You can't see it, but that's where it is.
And that's so where you want to be as a blocker.
He can't get that. He doesn't have that length to push off, and he's not long arming in this situation. So I've noticed this quite a few times in his run blocking where he'll kind of peekaboo into the gap. And if they cut back into his gap, which happens right here, 23 goes right through, or as the backside of his gap, he doesn't have any sort of like, there's no ability, no leverage to power and get back over. And that's something we saw in like a Trayvon Walker that he did really well. He'd get that long arm up and he'd be reading the runner, and then he'd have that leverage because he's got that long arm up to, he could rip under, he could push, pull down, that sort of thing. And that's kind of where I saw some concrete issues with his run defending. I want to see if I can see the tackle's right hand. Yeah, you can see it. He goes right under. It's exactly how
he can't even reach. He can't even get his head back across because the tackle had that arm there and that hand there was able to drive him.
I think the running game concerns are actually very valid, which is funny because he's like kind of presented as this power rusher that you would think would be a good run defender, but it really goes with get rid of the cliches and assess these players as individuals. So he's right side of your screen here.
A little more get off.
Does look more explosive, and he goes off the chip. So again, there's a chip from the tight end, 85.
That was the why. Yeah, he was trying to disrupt the tight end or was prepared for the tight end, but
so this is something I wanted to show because this Notre Dame team vertical sets a lot, and so I think some of the concern with Karlaftis is you'll get guys if he's in a wide alignment, and we see him in a wide alignment in these games a lot more than what you mentioned in the previous game where he's 5-eye a lot, or 5-tech a lot, and so what he does a really good job here is he uses that runway between him and the vertical set because watch where 75 goes. So he's got steps here, right? Like there's a runway, and see how he gets his arms right up under. It's like a boxer working up into a guy. He's using that explosiveness. He uses pretty good pad level to avoid that punch because that's the fear with him, I think. It's that guys are just going to vertical set him, and then as he comes in, they're just going to hit that punch, use the length advantage. But if he can use explosiveness, pad level, hesitation, timing, all of those sorts of things that kind of take away that margin of error for a tackle, he can use that runway to his advantage. And I think that's something he did really well in this game.
Certainly. And you see the hands in a striking position. You see him ready to generate with that runway, which is going to prevent someone from getting through almost in that MMA, that boxer. That's why I enjoy him in his hand usage. He's protecting his chest while getting ready to generate force. So his hands are now up right here. Elbows are up, ready. Almost like a tackle pass setting, keeping your hands ready to strike. So he's got to be quicker. He's got to be to the point. And like you said, he just can't lose that chest. He doesn't have the length for it. He might not have the get off for it. So the chest is his make or break every single rep. It feels like is keeping his chest clean and striking into the chest of his blocker, especially in those vertical sets. But you do see that drive. You do see him able to create real force through NFL caliber, Notre Dame right tackle, able to drive into the pocket, collapse it, and really drive. And he's 20 years old at this point, like we said.
Yeah. No, very well said. Not a lot here. Just it showed pretty good anchor. Play was made in the backfield. Not a whole lot to show. I don't want to waste a lot of time on this one, but showed a good anchor against the run, which I do think he has. And he used that inside hand on the inside shoulder of the guard to kind of wash, right? He's backside of a zone run. He's just trying to wash and keep square while he works down the line. So he's right there in the 5-tech again. Yeah, 5-tech. So again, not a whole lot to show there, but just wanted to show that.
So again, it's kind of that, that peak where he's working inside, working down the gap and tries to get his eyes, but he just can't, the ideal thing is to be able to lock out and peak, to be able to stack and peak. And it feels like he has to win the peak and then hope to be able to shed. So if someone gets those armpits, if someone gets his chest, if someone has good hand position and leverage, he's cooked. He's done.
Could not be more opposite than Trayvon. Like it couldn't be more. Like that's what he did so well. So if you guys really want to see go watch the Trayvon Walker one. because his long arm against Dare Rosenthal and Darian Kinnard they were nasty in that game.
It's almost a joke with Trayvon.
So there he uses a swim move, gets the TFL. So we like to see that again. Different, not a pass rush play, but a pass rush move. Just swims right over the guard. So
really good recognition of where the blocker overextended and how to adjust. And he's under control. He doesn't fire off the ball, super low gear, and is able to quickly use a hand move, so to speak, or a move to be able to transition from where the weak spot of the blocker was to around them.
He's also got a stack box here against 12 personnel. So, I mean, that probably makes him feel a little bit more confident to shoot a gap because he's got a little bit of the reinforcements behind him.
Safeties are in tight.
Probably, exactly.
Down in distance is probably very short here, I would imagine.
Yeah. So I like to see that, just recognition of, I can make this, what's the right word? Riskier play. Reward. Yeah. And what's he get rewarded with the TFL. So we like to see that. Just pull that back up. Saves me time by not clipping these into one video, but man, navigating with I have a Mac, so with that little it drives me crazy.
And you see him really trying to generate length there, trying to maximize his length into that long arm, turning the shoulders. One arm is always going to be longer than two. So
I want everyone to watch the right guard. Okay, watch the right guard on his side. Watch the way he plays this rep. So he's going to double their one tech with the center, and watch his eyes look over his right shoulder. See right there, he's looking at Karlaftis, and then I'm going to double. But where's he looking? Karlaftis, and then he comes in and hits him once he gets.
Because he knows he's not going to be able to win with speed. He trusts that tackle to vertical set and protect the arc. So it's going to be blocked up.
But how much does this tell you that offenses are game planning for him? Like, he's not even worried about that one tech. He doesn't give a crap. He's just going to double him. I'm going to stand here, 1-1-1, boom. Crazy. But you do make a good point. That's something I didn't actually think about. The amount of attention he can see on inside moves. That right guard, he lines up over the right tackle in this game quite a bit. And that right guard, 62, I don't know who it is, but he gave him quite a few problems in this game. Very, very hard-hitting dude, too. But it just stood out to me. It's like, this is how much attention this kid faces, where, I couldn't get over him peeking over his shoulder like that. Like, he just had no real concern for the guy in front of him. He's like, I'm just going to hug this double and peek over my shoulder.
The issue for me in ways for Karlaftis is he does have to win inside so often unless a tackle really struggles to find their set point and he's able to use those swipes. And quarterbacks, as we've seen the Ravens rushers, a guy, Max Crosby, who is obviously a superior athlete, similarly doesn't have a very long arm length, but when he wins inside, it's just not as worrisome as a quarterback when a guy wins inside and you're able to understand that they can get washed. You can move with it. You can roll out. You have the field. So not being able to force a quarterback to step up if you can't generate power is a problem. And I think that's where some of the limitations come in and kind of make me think that he's not going to be ultimately, a really high-level impact player like he was made out to be early in the draft process and over the last couple of years.
Right. Well said. I think the tackle tries to hit him with a quick set, and there he turns the corner really well. But this is, again, he identified the set. He identified the set really well.
So quickly.
The way he planted his ankle to turn. Why am I not finding this? Go back further. The way he planted his ankle to make that move. This is what we were talking about. I don't think he's a very fluid athlete, but he does have really flexible ankles. So the way he plants his foot to make this turn. Because, I mean, he's turning this is a Mack truck turning right here. See right there how he turns. He's already, perpendicular with the line of scrimmage. And
able to manipulate his feet both towards the quarterback. Both his outside foot and inside foot are able to completely turn so that he can flatten very quickly.
And good upfield burst. He's when he threatens outside, he's a vertical rusher in terms of he takes his first couple of steps upfield rather than on an angle. And that's kind of what helped him here. So he's upfield, and then, again, hand usage, keeping guys off his chest. He seems mindful of that pretty consistently.
He's a quick processor, a very quick processor in terms of what is the set that I'm getting thrown at me and how do I win. And he has answers for different sets. The only answer he doesn't have is a guy that doesn't feel threatened at all by him vertically. He's not going to be able to get them in the end around that arc.
Yep. Yeah, see, I think he'd struggle with like Orlando Brown Jr. is a good example because someone that's going to come out and square you up really quickly, I think he'd struggle with because those inside moves are going to be tough because he's going to have the stop sign, right, with that inside hand. And he's not really going to be too threatened by your outside bend. So those are the kinds of rushers that can square you up really well, which I don't think these Notre Dame tackles did overly well. But those are the guys that I think he would do quite well against him because it's all about squaring him up and taking away that inside potential, right? And that's all just through a very strong post step, good hand placement, manipulating the inside hand.
Exactly. And you see him really trying to time the snap up too.
He does seem to have I think he's got a better step off the ball here, right? Like it looks a little bit more explosive.
Coiling. He's on that snap count. He's coiling, and that's how you get offsides. But also, guys like Brandon Thorne, J.J. Watt even said it himself. 70% of sacks. J.J. Watt said 70% of my sacks are a result of snap anticipation, timing the count, getting the cleanest, quickest possible release, and being able to win off the snap. So it's something that I feel like gets a little bit overhated on, but at the same time does show he's not winning with athletic burst. He has to time it well in order to win.
Good point. Yeah, and here I think you see, as he just looks clunky again, trying to go around the edge. Not a lot of, he doesn't have a very good bend. He's pretty high there.
You just see those plodding steps that are very laborious for him to be able to get around that corner. He takes this real trotting effort, almost like a Mountie on horseback in good old Canada.
Yeah, no, that's I recognize it. Like it's part of my culture.
And in order for him to win, he like you said, the biggest error there to me was being high.
Yeah.
Because if you're at low, at least you might be able to seal. You might be able to avoid. You might be able to keep yourself clean. You're gonna have a lower center of gravity to be able to be more fluid. But he's just really taking any ability away by being so high. He's worried about, I got to press up field. I need to win vertically, but you can't when you're that high. You're not even ever, even fluid athletes, if they catch themselves that high, aren't going to be able to make that speed turn like that. It's like running a triangle instead of that, that semicircle.
Yeah, it was funny. I was watching a clinic, Old Dominion. Their defensive coordinator used to be the D-line coach at Penn State. So I was watching him after we drafted Owe. It was a clinic he gave as ODU's DC, but he was using all this Penn State film from the year before. So you could see Owe, you could see Shakatoni, and he was kind of showing how he coached that pass rush on their speed rush. And he taught a very upfield philosophy. So 1-2 steps upfield vertically before you threaten that kind of arc, right? And so what I was looking for, because it's always interesting to watch these guys, you see a clinic given about how they'd be taught, and then you marry that with how they're playing, and it kind of gives you some understanding of why they're doing certain things that way. So that's specifically why I watched it. But one thing that intrigued me was he focused so much when you make that. He used to have this drill where he'd have them run and then set their inside foot, and they'd have to dramatically overstep with their right foot. And he was really trying to show that bend that's required. And that's kind of what you're not seeing from Karlaftis is he'll work up field, but then he doesn't have that ability to kind of cut under. And that's just where you get into the hip flexibility, maybe a little bit of the knee flexibility, which is causing that pad level. Again, we kind of showed the irony of the ankle flexion because he does have flexible ankles, which is so weird. But in terms of stiffness as a pass rusher, I think that's always going to be a little bit limiting unless he can kind of loosen up a little bit. We saw a guy like Devin Duvernay get a lot looser in his hips. So I think, it's always going to be a possibility, but obviously much harder to develop in your skill set.
Especially as a bigger man.
Yeah. And he does kill, absolutely kill. Again, he might have been welcomed inside here, but he kills quick sets, which really shows his processing. He anticipates that.
Destroys quick sets, agreed. And it seems like he can reduce just a little and give himself a little more forward lean, create that greater angle from back foot through his chest so that the target is going to be on a slope and you're not able to shock with the hands on the quick set. You're going to kind of slide down it. So I think he does a good job reducing. You see a lot of swim moves. You see a lot of rips and some of the club and rip and some of those things. So again, like you said, yeah, the processing very, very high. And that's why he's a good player, I think, is because he processes the sets. He's very high IQ, understanding what the lineman's doing to him.
And that, I think, leads itself really well to day one impact. A guy that can kind of get out there. You're not going to have to work through some of these pieces with him. He's going to be kind of ready to go in that regard. Hits a nasty spin move here on the guard. And this is play that intrigued me. He didn't rush inside quite a bit, but something I could see if he is the selection to the Ravens, I could see them. I'm always going to make the comparison because it's such a good one, like the Pernell McPhee throwback, where you're kind of outside rusher, but they can move you inside. And just, again, showing a different tool in his repertoire, hits him with the spin move, awfully close to a safety. But what do you see there? Lack of a finish. And you nailed it earlier, tackle radius. So, again, this one, dude, bitch about the length all you want because I think it consistently shows up. So frustrated here because, that's a tough tackle to make. You can see his arm out extended right there on the freeze frame. And he just doesn't – it's just not there. Like, I'm wondering 32, 31 and a half, 31 and 3/8. I think they're going to be –
I bet he's in the 32s. I bet he's like 32 and a half inch arms, probably like a 78-inch wingspan, something like that, 78-inch wingspan. So – and really, I like the spin move. You can still see like a lack of explosiveness in it a little bit. I feel like an NFL, starting caliber lineman's going to be able to wash that in. It was all right though. I don't want to take away from it too much, but it just kind of was like, it was like a merry-go-round a little bit more so than it was, an explosive movement.
Right.
Ultimately.
What I like is just the mixture, right? Like, we're seeing quite a few things through this game of, that repertoire, something to build on. And I forget who, I think it was Ojabo we talked about it with. Ojabo would do these crazy things. Like, there was ones where he'd do double spins. Like, it was like he was just drunk on the edge experimenting. And it all needed refinement. And I still see that in some of his pieces, especially, the spins and the swims. Even his swims are kind of, he's got good force with his inside hand, but that kind of outside hand that swims is still a little bit slow. So I think there's still room for refinement.
Definitely. I mean, he only played 370 snaps. Probably had, 200 pass rushes maybe. So 100%.
Yeah. Good leverage creation here.
It is. It is. But again, I just don't see the explosiveness in it quite that much. He has a nice little hezzy there. I feel like this is where I've gone wrong before with prospects, is really falling in love with these reps. And if that is your fastball, that's your reliant pitch, it's going to go away a little at the NFL, especially if you can't threaten the arc.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're just going to underset you. Why not? I got the foot speed to catch up to you if you try and bend my arc, and you can't bend anyway. And like, this is, if I want to critique the offensive tackle here, I mean,
very high, knees are inside.
His knees, yes. So I think what he did with the mistake
that is beautiful. This freeze frame is beautiful. The leverage from the back foot through the shoulders. He's creating that leverage. So I do like that very much.
But this is his game. It's that leverage power rush game. And what I think this tackle did consistently in this game, which I would be upset as a coach, is consistently trying to like protect the outside when it's just like, dude, don't worry about it. Kind of like what we saw from Falale. Falale wasn't really that concerned about it. He was just going to let you kind of go to the edge and I'll just wash you and lean on you. Not everyone's 6'9", 380. I get that. But some of these reps, there's just not a need to take that extra kick step.
Definitely.
Right there. That it was that third kick step that he took, and that's why he's buckling inside. But again, Karlaftis, really good recognition of it. And that's where he recognized it, cuts inside. Good processing.
That's his most redeeming quality as a prospect to me. And the fact that he is, tangibly very young. He doesn't play young. He doesn't play raw at all. So I think what you see is what you get. I'm curious about his frame. To me, it feels like it's somewhat maxed out by kind of like his legs. You're going to get older, get stronger, whatever. But that's his most redeeming quality ultimately, that every good rep, you see the processing, and then you see the combination of the processing with the hands.
This was slow how he popped the running back's head off. Nice little mixture here, though. He gets the running back attention. He hits a swim on the left tackle, and then he goes through the running back. It's great. Again, overset, work that move back inside. So I beat that guy. Now I'm going to run you, knock your helmet off. So
run that one back one more time. I just want to look at the lateral ability there. Again, that's that ankle flexion and how quick and fluid it was. He has fluid feet. Yep. Fluid feet. That was really nimble, really quick. That was an NFL, high caliber, wow, rep to me, being able to play that way. So maybe unlocking some of his lateral game, rushing inside to come outside in a way. It's just hard to translate that all the way. But to me, that's a redeeming athletic quality of his that will show up. And you see it when he's lined up inside sometimes. You see it in the run game sometimes. Real lateral quickness because he does have efficient feet and good bend in his ankles.
And to kind of throw egg in my own face, what's this tackle do differently than the right tackle? He tries to square him up right there. And he took complete advantage of that. But again, he's kind of too far outside. I just wouldn't square him that wide. I'm just not that
encourage him to attack your outside shoulder.
Exactly.
So that you can turn and wash.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying. But it was just funny to see it because I literally.
And then again through the running back. So the running back fills there and again is able to redirect himself enough to avoid the force of the running back. And that's a really high level pass blocking running back. He turns just enough so that he can't get a full man. The running back does prevent him from having a clean path, but considering it's a block and then a full pickup, pretty nimble overall. So there's shades of athletic improvement. I mean, look at 19 and then look at this. So
that outside arm just feels slow. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it doesn't seem
explosive.
Yeah.
It's looping. Something. It wasn't tight. It doesn't need to be that. It's like a Tim Tebow pass versus a Lamar Jackson pass. It's like whip it, just hit it over top, generate force with it, lock it with your knee, use your other knee as a piston so you can get into that next motion and prepare yourself, come back quicker. And what is he doing by doing that big motion? He's exposing his chest. He's exposing his ribs. So when someone's a little quicker, a little more experienced, they're going to hit you right in that rib cage, right in that chest with a hand strike if they can counter enough.
And it's going to be pad level too as he goes into that second block. If he hits that a little tighter, he gets lower. Maybe he runs through that running back a little bit better. I mean, he still ran through him pretty well, but he was high, high enough to hit his helmet off. But
we're nitpicking for sure, but really, that was slow. That arm over was slow.
But again, same thing. Recognition, a set point, inside move to counter, using pass rush moves within his pass rush plan. Those are the things that you look at. And what can George Karlaftis do for you? What's his year one impact? Process, set point recognition, inside move, variety of pass rush moves. All things I think are working for him in his case to be a solid NFL player. But high level athleticism, high level flex. It's just not there. Not part of his game. Probably not going to be part of his game. Just can't see him kind of developing that flexibility on the outside. Maybe he can get a little bit more athletic. It's always hard to say. I think his age does help him there. Out leveraged again.
Hopefully, and out leveraged. But to me, he just has, a little bit of a Frankenstein body a little bit. It's just, it doesn't all line up. He doesn't have, that's why it's the eye test that we've heard about. Trayvon Walker passes the eye test. Jermaine Johnson passes the eye test. I think Ajabo, not to as much of a degree, but does. You kind of see the overall development through his body. It looks the part. And the fluidity's there more so. So it's just, trying to bet on things that you've seen before a little bit, but there will be the outliers. I just, ultimately think you're going to get more stiff over time at a certain point. Ultimately, injuries are going to happen. You're going to continue to, put more stress on your joints, all that good stuff. I believe either Purdue's head coach or strength and conditioning coach said they've never seen a college athlete that is more dedicated to recovery, diet, nutrition, and overall just like dedicated to the work.
No, always good to hear that kind of stuff. I think he gets both tight ends here, doubling them. So don't double him or don't block him with the tight end unless you have a second tight end because he destroys the first one. Just overpowers him with upper body strength, really. Just kind of that inside or outside hand right against that chest plate. Brings that outside arm over. Sorry, I went too far back. Long clip.
I'd love to watch him and McCary go at it. Strength on strength, weakness on weakness.
Yeah. So yeah, that's It's just there's something that you kind of get left feeling a little about with them. I think some of it kind of comes down for expectations at 14. Seems crazy to me that he was kind of the top 5, 6, 7, 8 kind of guy. That seems a little crazy to me in hindsight after I've kind of dug into him a little bit.
Especially just looking at the rest of a really deep edge class.
Yeah.
For me, it's a hard take in the top 20, honestly. I feel like he, of the top guys in the edge department, and maybe even Ebiketie as well, I think I'm going to go in another direction.
So, guys, if you guys want to drop questions, I see. Let's start with this one. Tony, out of Walker and Carr, who is far more inside-out versatility? Spencer, why don't you jump into that?
Yeah, I feel like Walker. I think Walker's just more overwhelming as an athlete. The length is there. I don't think Karlaftis shows any real quickness that Walker doesn't show in any way. He does maybe have a little more of that lateral kind of jump feet ability, but Walker to me can overpower a guard even still. His functional strength is just that much better. The length is there. We didn't get to see a ton of reps. I think there's one against Kentucky where you see kind of a hezzy swipe from Walker and some things overall. But to me, Walker's just going to hold up better, more firm, and be able to kind of collapse things that way more so inside. So I'm going to go Walker.
See, and so in the context of that question about versatility, I'd say Walker as well. But when you kind of compare the two prospects together, I think what I would give Karlaftis is he has a more advanced pass rush plan. He has a little bit more significantly better processing in the pass rush game on the edge. So those are things that I think makes a big difference in terms of, because I was pretty low on Walker, mostly because from 2020 to 2021, I just didn't see his pass rush game advance. There was no, so I can see the traits that I can put down and say, if he kind of puts this and this together, can develop a really good pass rush plan, but he wasn't putting that on film for me to react to. Karlaftis is kind of the opposite, where I don't think he has as high of traits. I don't think he's as explosive. That first step, the explosiveness of Walker has isn't there. He doesn't have the long arm and the length. He doesn't have that type of upper body strength. Well, I shouldn't say that because he does have good upper body strength. It just wasn't on display as much because of the lack of using that long arm, I'm assuming, because it doesn't have long arms, so you're not going to consistently long arm guys.
That'll negate it inside a little bit. It's more close quarters. It's more of hand speed and placement a little more so.
But that's the leg he has up on Walker if you want to compare the two. And they're two good ones to compare because they're two kind of power rushers in the top part of this edge class. But the types of, hand placement, hand movement, branching things together that Karlaftis just showed, Walker did not consistently show that on his tape. And that's really where I kind of came away down on him as a prospect. So overall, Spencer, what do you think? What do you got on Karlaftis?
Yeah, to me, I'm going to have a second round grade for him. I'm going to have a kind of like a 50-ish grade on him. Ultimately, I like the immediate impact. I feel like you can see, and just from what I hear, I'm sure teams will get better insight. But again, all reports are he is an incredibly hard worker. He's extremely passionate. He's a joy to work with, work around, and be with as a peer, as a student, as anything of the sort. The processing is there. The hand placement is there. I just really struggle to see him have the three-way go. And to me, that's my biggest thing as an edge rusher. I don't even really consider him a plus run defender. I think he's a solid run defender, but I'm not looking at him to be like, all right, I'm going to be able to draft this dude 25th overall. And guess what? He's going to be able to play on first and second down and be a force there. To me, I don't even get that all the way. There is room for development, hopefully, considering his age, but I don't have the three-way go. The ability to win with speed, the ability to win with power, and the ability to counter inside and mix the karate. And to me, he really has the processing and the karate, but it's an incomplete pass rusher and someone that is rarely out of place, rarely over rushes, will probably get some sack production, will probably, be able to find his way into disruption late, do some things. I could see him being a 30 pressure guy, rotational, 40 pressure guy, rotational, a 5-6 sack guy that's able to play, be on the field, be in a heavy rotation, and see how much more you're going to get. I just am not sure of how maxed out he is physically. Again, it feels like he has a little bit of an odd body type. So that gives me a little trepidation. But second round, I think you could do a lot worse. To me, ultimately, and my edge clarity is starting to really come to me. I do want to watch a little bit more of Jermaine Johnson's film from this past year still. But to me, it's really starting to look like after Thibodeau and Hutchinson, I think I'm going to end up going Johnson, then really close between Ajabo and Walker. And then, I think I'm going to go Ebiketie to round out there, and then Karlaftis after that. So to me, Karlaftis is someone that a team is going to benefit from a strong edge class, a guy that maybe sneaks into the first round, early second round, last year's class. I think this one's a little deeper, a little more talented. So to me, he's a second round player. I would love to see him test well. And that's why I really wanted to see him test. And I really wanted to see if he did have those athletic measurements at the combine that make you say, okay, there's more than meets the eye here. We can get more out of him. And to maybe not get that this week is really disappointing. I get it from his perspective and his agent's perspective. But to me, I'm like, I had a lot of questions I think could have been answered, and I feel like I'm not going to get it now.
See, I kind of don't see it because it does sound like if you read Feldman's article, like he does sound like he tests well. So if people are worried about the athletic ability, which that's my biggest concern coming off this this watch, is he just doesn't have the first step explosiveness. He doesn't necessarily have, like you kind of wrapped it up really well. He's got really good snap timing that kind of makes it seem like he's got that first step explosiveness. But when you watch it in a vacuum, it's just not there. He's not twitched up. He's not, getting upfield quickly. And some of his movements, I like, you use this word all the time, and I like it, laborious. Like he's laboring just to kind of get through the set. So I wondered if maybe he could have silenced some of those critics with this testing. But then again, maybe he's got a bad 3 cone and he doesn't want that to come out, right?
I almost feel like he should have returned to school, to be honest.
Yeah.
In this class, which is deep in that position, which is deep, overall, I feel like it would have benefited him at 20 to go back to school and try his luck a little bit. I think it's to his detriment to come out this year a bit, but when ESPN's mock drafting you in the top 5 for like 2 years, you're going to be tempted there. And I'm curious to see how he plays out. But again, I just see him as a nice player. Discount Joey Bosa, kind of like less athletic Max Crosby, just can't win around the outside. So I don't know. It's tough. I really was going into his tape thinking, wow, this is going to be a plus run defender, so I can live with some of the limitations as a pass rusher. Walker is an elite, like a last
day one starter.
Last 3 years, one of the best run defenders on tape of anyone, and has the right traits, the right look, and everything. And I thought I was supposed to get that with Karlaftis just because of the narratives that were floated. So was a little disappointed there. And that's kind of biases or reading other people's work and then, seeing it for yourself. So this is why I'm glad we do these. I'm glad we watch the tape. I'm glad we get into it, talk some ball. And it's a lot of fun. But to me, I would be remiss to ultimately do the Ravens want him at 14. To me, I would be a little disappointed. There's going to be one of Walker or Ajabo or Jermaine Johnson on the board that I would definitely prefer, and probably at least 2 of them, I would think.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of wrap this up for you guys, that's kind of my biggest takeaway, and I think you've said it well, so I don't want to be too repetitive. But lack of run defense is kind of a killer to me. It's just when do you get him on the field? That's kind of where I'm stuck. Does he come in as a situational pass rusher? And you kind of have Owe and Bowser Hayes as kind of your starters, and is that really like I can justify that with David Ojabo because I think he's got that type of high level, high leverage situation where he can be your speed rusher and produce. So even if he's not playing starter level snaps, he's playing the high leverage ones and making a big impact. So that's really what hurts me with Karlaftis is how do I get him on the field? And now that I got him on the field, like what's he going to really do for me? The lack of things I like. Let's hit on some things I like. Advanced pass rush plan, good IQ, really good processing. Consistently seeing him identify the set point, even going back to 2019, is really important to me. That I think you said it well. I think he's going to find his way to being a disruptive player early in his career. But like, what's the ceiling on that? In the context of the Ravens, I think it's kind of a tough sell on me, just because, again, I just don't see a clear path for him onto the football field. So that's always going to hurt his projection a little bit. So I think I agree with a second round grade. I have a feeling I'm almost.
I just don't even really like him as a fit for the Ravens defense and what it's been because of the lack of length that he plays with. I think he's more of a
Does it make a difference in McDonald's defense though? Like the way I envision him, and I envision Walker, and I go because this is just from watching Ojabo. It's like, okay, Ojabo is always in the 2-point stand up. Hutchinson's kind of down in the 3-point playing the power rush role. Thunder and Lightning off the two edges. Is that where Walker and Karlaftis fit? In that 5 tech role, in tight. Is like, could you see that? Would that make sense?
To me, I see Walker genuinely just moving up and down the line and able to just completely obliterate with that inside long arm and lock down a half of the football field in the run game and work with his skills as a pass rusher. You can get a push-pull out of him. You can start to develop counters a little bit. It feels like, and Karlaftis, to me, I need him playing downhill. He does have some of an anchor in the run game, but McDonald's defense is weird to project. I mean, on third down, I think it looks a lot like what we saw at Purdue. I think, those reps are going to look pretty similar in many ways. But first down, second down, I think there's going to be some other priorities. And I just feel like he fits into a Mike Zimmer style defense more, or, a Dan Quinn style defense a little bit more, something of the sort. I actually think the Cowboys might be a nice fit for him, to be honest.
No, that with two kind of more base ends, right? That might make a little bit more sense. And I don't think that's going to be McDonald's style, but I did wonder, in the Hutchinson power role. But like you said, I see Walker being a much better fit than that, just because it's kind of a set it and forget it, at that 5 tech role where he's just
and our question mark on Walker, me and you talked about it, is just, moving.
Is he going to be a better pass rusher?
Explosively. Yeah. It's just, what is the get off situation when you ask it to be there?
Same situation on third down. Do I have to move him inside? Is he going to develop an outside pass rush game? Can I take Karlaftis's pass rush plan and set point identification and put it on Trayvon Walker's traits? Can I do that? No, I can't. But it really shows a funny comparison in the two, because that's really where I see the difference in the two. Kind of, let's call him. Jermaine Johnson.
It's like a mental difference versus a physical difference, like a mental shortcoming kind of versus a physical shortcoming.
Because that's Karlaftis's biggest upside. Smart player, clearly does a lot of study, understands his skill set, understands his limitations, plays within it. So credit him there. That's something that I think he could get some early success out of. Just it's going to be tough for him to kind of continue to ascend and become a better and better and better player, right? So it's kind of that, how do we define players? Is he a day one starter? Probably not, because of his run defense. So that knocks him down a peg. Does he have that long-term Pro Bowl upside? I think he can be productive. I'm not necessarily sure if I see that in terms of an outcome. So that's where I think we're pretty much on the same page with this one.
Right. My final thought is just like AJ Epinesa, someone I really loved, is
He haunts you. He continues to haunt you.
I do. I want to I'm on his team. I want to work with him. I don't think he's utilized right, but so Epenesa's 6'5", 275 pounds at the combine, 34.5-inch arms. He did kind of jump okay. He didn't run very well. His 3-cone was 7.34, but it's to me, I just don't even see those physical traits with Karlaftis in the length and sheer size department to be like, all right, well, I can really move him into more of 3-4-5 tech. That 30 front 5 tech a little bit more, or kind of like almost the Calais Campbell kind of 3 through 5, a lot of 4-eye, a lot of 3, that role. And it's just tough. It's tough on Karlaftis. In the end, the processing, the hand counters, I think he is black belt certified as a pass rusher. So yeah, I think he's going to be a good pro. I think he's going to be a solid player and is super young. And I think that's maybe if I'm wrong, it's because he is so young with so much experience and so much polish, and he is able to be maximized even further. And like you said, obviously he's very aware of his shortcomings, so is going to continue to sharpen his strengths ultimately. So if he does turn into a real impact pass rusher, impact player, I think that's why. I think it's just because he is so young and so polished. That's kind of his rare combination.
Love it. Love it. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary. Spent a little bit of time on the summary, but I think there's a lot of nuance to this, especially with after we did Trayvon Walker together. I think kind of understanding the similarities, differences, and how we're doing that assessment.
We're really starting to stack the class of edge rushers, which has a lot of dudes in it, like some actual dudes.
I think what I'm learning, and I'm learning this with Trevor Penning, is doing these live streams is obviously a lot of fun. Love doing it. You don't get the reflection time, right? You're kind of watching it. And I watch the clips beforehand, but I don't deep dive them. And then there's so many things I just want to go back and I'll be here watching Karlaftis in like 3 weeks, being like, what did I miss? Oh, there's that. So it's an evolving game. Opinions are going to evolve a little bit. I wouldn't say a whole lot because I still think some of these players are kind of what they are, but it's an ever-ending struggle. But again, guys in there watching, please hit that like button. It means a lot. And Julian, saw your comment here at Ravens fan 1991. Thanks for the kind comments. I always say this is one of the most time-consuming hobbies I could possibly have, but I really appreciate
spending. Doing like woodwork and selling it instead, or something.
Yeah, like instead I'm just sitting in my office, like. Anyway, at least it's a nice office. So I got that going for me. But Spencer, my guy, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate I appreciate your time as always. This is like I think our 4th one. So I just appreciate you hopping in. You guys know where to find Spencer at Ravens for Dame Baltimore Beatdown with our boy Jake Luke. And go check out the if you guys want more content, especially on YouTube, go check out the piece he just did with Bobby Trossett. It was a lot of fun to watch, building on the 10 prospects I did. I stole a couple of Spencers, but that's just the name of the game. But a lot of fun watching that. So go check out some of those pieces. Be sure to follow them on Twitter. Check out Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. So that's all we have for you guys. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace out.